Welcome, third graders. This is Reading Research, video number 8. Today, we are going to continue to grow our ideas about nonfiction. So what I would like you to do, third graders, is to listen very closely and notice how I grow an idea and think new thoughts about penguins. I'm continuing to read from Whispering Lands. Early in the morning, one of the parent birds, either male or female, would set out toward the sea, leaving its mate in charge of the nestlings. In order to get to the sea, the bird had to cover about 1.5 miles of the most grueling and difficult terrain imaginable. First, they had to pick their way through the vast patchwork of nesting burrows. Then they were faced by the desert area, where the sand was caked and split by the sun, so hot that it was painful to touch, and yet the penguins would plod dutifully across it, pausing frequently for a rest, as though in a trance. But when they reached the other side of the desert, they were faced with another obstacle, the sand dunes. These towered over the figures of the birds like a snow-white chain of Himalayan mountains. When they finally reached the far side of the dunes, there was the sea, blue, glittering, lisping on the shore. And to get to it, they had to drag their tired bodies over the stony beach where the pebbles scrunched and wobbled under their feet, throwing them off balance. But at last it was over, and they plunged into the cool water. Third graders, I noticed a lot about penguins in this passage. I noticed more about their traits, their motivations, and their struggles. I also noticed some words that the author used. Third graders, I noticed that the author described actions that the penguins did, and the words, I paid close attention to the words the author used: grueling, difficult, painful to touch, and that the penguins would plod dutifully. By paying close attention to the penguins' actions and to the words that the author used, third graders, I grew an idea. I'm thinking that penguins really love their young. Penguins are so committed to their young that they would do anything, even grueling treks to the sea, to care for them. Third graders, did you notice what I did? Did you notice that, one, I paid attention to everything that the penguins do, and I paid attention to the words that the author used. Now it's your turn. I'm going to read another passage, but third graders, I want you to shift from paying attention to the parents to the babies. I want you to notice everything that the baby penguins do, and I want you to grow some ideas about baby penguins. Ready? Okay. So remember, you're paying attention to the young and not the parents. Okay, so also, can you put a finger up every time you're growing a new idea about baby penguins? Once the parent bird reached the edge of the colony, it had run the gauntlet of several thousand youngsters before it reached its own nest, burrow, and babies. And these youngsters were convinced that by launching themselves at the adult bird in a sort of tackle, they could get it to regurgitate the food it was carrying. So the adult had to avoid the attacks of these fat, furry youngsters by dodging to and fro like a skillful center forward on a football field. Generally, the parent would end up at its nest or burrow. It would squat down at the entrance to the burrow and stare at its feet. It would make motions like someone trying to stifle an acute attack of hiccups. Remember, you're paying attention to what the baby penguins do. How are these young penguins behaving? What are their traits, motivations, and struggles? So the parent would squat down at the entrance to the burrow and stare at its feet, making motions like someone trying to stifle an acute attack of hiccups. On seeing this, the youngsters would work themselves into a frenzy of delighted anticipation, uttering their wild wheezing cries, flapping their wings frantically, pressing themselves close to the parent bird's body, and stretching up their beaks and clattering them against the adults. This would go on for about 30 seconds, when the parent would suddenly, with an expression of relief, regurgitate vigorously, plunging its beak deeply into the gaping mouths of the youngsters, that you felt sure it would never be able to pull its head out again. Remember, we're paying attention to the babies, not to the regurgitating that the adults are doing. Boys and girls, I bet you have 1, 2, maybe even 3 fingers up in the air because you grew an idea about baby penguins. Can you say it out loud to somebody in the room, or say it out loud to yourself? What is an idea that you were able to grow about baby penguins? Did you pay attention to everything they did? Did you listen carefully to the words that the author used? I grew an idea, and I bet you did too, that baby penguins are desperate for food. The actions and the words that the author used led me to grow an idea that baby penguins are very desperate for food. I'm also thinking, third graders, that baby penguins, they're totally dependent on their parents. They have to wait and wait for those parents to take these grueling treks to the sea, come back, and regurgitate their food. So I have 2 ideas. I bet you have 2, maybe even 3 ideas about baby penguins. So third graders, this is an example of how we want you to, today and every day, grow new ideas about your reading research. Think your own thoughts. We do not want you to just copy facts. We want you to gather facts across the 6, 7, 8 articles, combine them, synthesize them, and now you're growing your own ideas. So today and every day you can think about that and make that shift from copying facts to noticing and growing your own ideas. Okay, thank you, third graders. Happy reading, and think of one kind thing you can do or say today. All right, goodbye.